举囊最给出囊来，将诸门路当地教书起，大给军人给个做囊给，做了本节上给诸把书，我举囊最给出囊来。将诸巴多当地教书起，大地军人给个上给，做了本节上给诸把书。举囊最给出囊来，将诸巴多当地教书起，大地军人给个出囊给。Now we recite a requesting mandala offering prayer. So, Yeah, so for spaciousness, at the beginning, I will recite a homage in the ornament for clear realization. So please adjust your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairocana. All sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers, not just once, but for numberless times. All mother sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, due to not knowing the objects of adoptions and abandonment,
they only experience suffering. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings had happiness, were to have happiness and the causes of happiness that are virtues. May they have happiness. I will cause them to have happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Desde do ordinary, sinceramente, da pura de religion, na zan juwa shi, da ba su religion mun dibe cho. Ada da tana jemo, da wa ji ji da wa da ga shawo da shi, wa da shi ji lo da so, ji su ne ba ji ni ji ba.
Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as physical suffering, pain, sickness, and problems caused by four elements. May their bodies be free from the discordant class. I will free their bodies from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
But desde do ordinary, ji ji ma de religion ji zhao de dong de na do ta la ni. Da wa ji ji da wa da ga shawo da shi, ni ba la ma la yi shi ji lo da so, su ne ba ji ni ba ji.
How nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, fear, and coarse and subtle negative discursive thoughts. May their minds be free from the discordant class. I will free their minds from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Desde do ordinary, ji ji ma de ji ma de zina so ma ji ni ba ta na ta na. Je ma ro ta wa ji ji da wa da ga shawo da shi, ni ba la ma la yi shi ji lo da so, su ne ba ji ni ba ji.
How nice it would be if the fish of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. All coarse and subtle negative speech, such as telling lies. May their speech be free from the discordant class. I will free their speech from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
But desde do ordinary, ji ma de ma zina so ma ji ni ba ta yi. Ordinary, ji ma na go su ji bi shawo da wa da ni dibe cho. Da wa ji ji da wa da ga shawo da shi, ni ba la ma la yi shi ji lo da so, su ne ba ji ni ba ji.
How nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. May their three doors be free from the discordant class. I will free their three doors from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. How nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering that are non-virtue. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Our freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. Even though I should take on the responsibility, I do not have the ability to do so now. Who has such ability? Only those who have achieved the perfect, complete enlightenment have the ability to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment. Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a perfect mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence. That transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while, that I do not exist as inherently one with or inherently different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist inherently. If I were to exist as inherently one with the aggregates, then I and the aggregates would become inseparable one. And if I were to exist as inherently different from the aggregates, then I and the aggregates would become unrelatedly others. Because of this reason, I do not exist as inherently one with the aggregates or inherently different from the aggregates. As I always mention, it is very important to conjoin whatever roots of virtue that we perform through our three doors with the practice of six perfections. Thus, to conjoin this session with the practice of six perfections, the first one is generosity. The nature of generosity is the mind of giving. These 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma is for the sake of purifying the suffering and achieving happiness for sentient beings. If we are able to cause these minds of giving to manifest, then we will be able to conjoin this session with the practice of generosity. Next is morality. The nature of morality is a mind of abandonment. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest. Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, I will patiently accept any physical or mental hardships that occur. If we are able to do so, then we will be able to conjoin this session with the practice of patience. Next is joyous effort. The nature of joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. I would delightfully and enthusiastically engage in the actions of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma. Next is concentration. The nature of concentration is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. I will single-pointedly focus on the object of the Dharma that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on. And I will not let myself fall under the control of distractions and discursive thoughts.
다 셔럽 셔럽 넘치시 거다 셔럽 좀 무슨 나시 다 내사고서 집에 가서 집에 들어가는데 신지 몰라 봐야 시 투바지 뭐이나 내 셔럽 좀 가지 않았으면 그랬어.
Next is wisdom. The nature of wisdom is a knower that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will properly and unmistakenly understand the words and the meanings of the Dharma that I listen to, manipulate, and meditate on.
어떤 짓을 보내야 보지 뭐지 해석에 탄지되는 사지식 공부하다가 이게 제도 다 간다 우리 최선의 우리 최선의 안에 책에도 전에 예 신경을 편곡하는 사도서 우리 주셨어.
Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this, I will listen to the Dharma and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
아이고 하와는데 이게 지야로 뭐 지야로스 이다가서 시바 다 저거 좀 보고 본다 그래서 된적은就是送来话要什么话那된적은 제대 내가서 다 파신 간다 이거 야 친구 쉬우래 다 껍지 제대 장사 시한테는 때 파시 아이 먼저 그런 양들 쓰내시나 와 껍지에 장사 지장 도와기나 파신 용서도 받자지만 이나 더 나가서 쉬바데 다 파신 게 이거 정확히는 되지 않았어 쉬바디는 비디오니스 나가서
Kariti kashiwa tuyo.
그 시간에는 시비가 저저 되나고 비교를 해서 파시기 용서도 받으러 다 반다고 그리 지나 그래서 그 뒤에 쪼는 일단 와서 값이 받아 이쪽도 저기 값이 받아 차도 그랬어.
So the text that we are going to study is called the Ornament for Clear Realization by my protector Maitreya. So he is one of the texts that belongs to the extensive mother, the perfection of wisdom. So it has 8 chapters, and we will mainly focus on the 4th chapter. So in which it also contains all the perfection of wisdom.
그때다 가서 인정해도 지지 값제도 봐 가서 다 인정이 제도 가서 막 값제도 그거 뭐도 지 값제도 우리 그마 여샤 좀더 가리이네 그마 뒤지 못해 지야서 되게 좋더라 이제 장정 모두 제가야 장정도 와
So to study this ornament for clear realizations, first we will go through the 8 chapters. So we will mainly talk about the objects of expressions, the main object of expressions of these 8 chapters. And we will go through it briefly. So otherwise, if we were to go in depth, then it will take a very long time.
또 저기 간다. 인증을 받도 뭐또 저기 나와 셔먹 거 인증을 또 저기 이게 막 나가서 미션 대화 진화서 다 아마 지식하게 간다. 갑자기 시대 갑자기 시대로 간다. 그 시대를 맞으면 대화 취해야 돼. 너무 지식하게 서로 제가 이 샷도 너무 지식하고 너무 지식하게 막 그래서 대화 나중에 되면 시작하는 거 지금이랬어.
So to teach this Maitreya's ornament for clear realization, so mainly we will use one of the commentaries of the ornament for clear commentary on ornament for clear realization, which is composed by Lama Jizumba, or other name for this. Another name for Lama Jizumba is Gyaltsen. So we will mainly based on the commentary composed by Lama Jizumba, which is called the general meaning of the fourth chapter. So, who is text composer of Sarajit textbook?
我记得我说，各级的人嘛，都在做继续为那个，当不我做，结果这个就在做的我说我不接噻，那都是呢，你不接话，那你不接的嘛，都是人的当不嘛，你不接的嘛，我这形式，那得个人卡着嘛，定个没，接嘛，学是吧？
Yeah, so regarding this, so I will briefly talk about the main objects of indications in the 8 chapters. So these 8 chapters basically is the 8 categories. So I would like to introduce you what these 8 categories are.
我是当我不接的嘛，场地性这些的话，我不接受场地的看待，对的，我对我说，俺前把松死了，我拿去场地，我场地没当个。 两个怎么学是吧？两个嘛，两个兄弟，当的前把送，就话是这个的解释，我看到那些都是那都嘛人么修是吧？前把送就话是这个的解释，这个我解的多人嘛，比来说是吧
？So what are these 8 categories? They are 3 exalted knowers, 4 applications, and 1 resultant truth body, totaling 8 categories. So I repeat, these 8 categories are the 3 exalted knowers, 4 applications, and 1 resultant truth body.
他当部的俺是讲的，俺是南迁是当部的，前把是好了，前把是呢当部南迁，你把南迁是把一些是，前把是对的是吧？ 那就前把是用的，我不修这个的，那得了的那你嘞，那不是的，前把是南些的，这是意思。
So the first 3 exalted knowers. So the exalted knowers is quite common. So when we say 3 exalted knowers, so it refers to the exalted knower of all aspects, and the second one is knower of paths, and the third one is knower of bases.
那主要是那当部，南做就啊，是他等我说西边的，我听说的话，他当部买，这个主要是那当部南做就啊，我们去那就
And the second category, the 4 applications, and the first of the 4 applications is application in complete aspects. So this application in complete aspects is the chapter or category that we are going to focus on.
那主要是当部南做就啊，你把最少，不当地的问题吧。
And the second application is called peak application.
他说嘛的，他就啊是，哇，他就啊是。
And the third one is serial application.
那西边的给几米就啊是，几米就啊对的。
And the fourth application is instantaneous application.
他基本上这边全部是对的哇，这边全部。
And the 8th category is called a resultant truth body, as I mentioned just now.
哦，他当的，他这里他得人嘛，应该做人是机会，他人做机会的，他不可能给各级人嘛，当部的，他那是当部嘛，我的学一个，他各当部的，他给多少什么，跟这个那些各级什么的话，各级什么的，他各人当部就像做的，但你把说人嘛，各级个人嘛，他是什么就像做的些，是吧？他各当部个是做嘛，就像这样的。 南迁是的，南迁是的，前把是南迁有啊，我这个他们就像做的意思。
So Maitreya's in Ornament for Clear Realization taught the 8 chapters in which it has respective main object of indication. So each chapter it has each respective main object of indication. So the first chapter is the first of the 3 exalted knowers called the exalted knower of all aspects.
那这里看的，那么说南迁什么就是说，那当部这个有些做南迁的话， 어쩌다 남주에 가서 뭐뭐 생기면 상황도 다 sensitive 추주 무엇도 다른 비기는 남지 생이세 그러고 sensitive 추주 무엇도 또 다른 비기대 다른 비기대 남지 생이세 안치서 되는지 공유를 해서 다 sensitive 추주 다 sensitive 추주는 가서 남지 전지 추주 여러 남지 전지 추주 다 소리를 심어 되는 우수를 다 창가 식으로 다 동복에 공부 창지 식으로
So the first category, its main object of indications or main object of expression is the exalted knower of all aspects. So the definition of an exalted knower of all aspects is a culminated exalted wisdom, directly realizing the 10 topics, the generated mind, and so forth. So a culminated exalted wisdom or fully developed exalted wisdom, directly realizing the 10 topics. So the 10 topics are the 10 topics that characterize the omniscient, the exalted knower of all aspects. So, and then such as the generated mind or the mind generation.
sanji pabi kanda utsewa bin chemba kanda ina chemba yosu zoba da kanda nanche beselo sanji pabi ji da sanji pabi ji bin chemba kanda ina chema be nanche da nanche sna chu kanda ina be ma dong ge de ngosu de ma dong ge chu jie yo ma de chema na ban cheng ge de wa ji ji nang ba ma li ba ji jia ge nang ba ma li ban cheng ge de so ben cheng ge ji ji da nanche se mu wa.
So all exalted knowers in the mind stream of an Arya Buddha are exalted knower of all aspects. I repeat, all exalted knowers in the continuum of an Arya Buddha are exalted knower of all aspects. And the exalted knowers in the continuum of an Arya Buddha realize directly the object of knowledge without exceptions. So there is no exalted knower in the continuum of an Arya Buddha that does not directly realize the phenomena.
그래서 시지 시험을 좋아. 다 시지 아무도 가기 빵바다 영양사 끊어지 뽑아서 찍어 잡으면 넘치서 좋아. 시지 가디 빵바다 영양도 내가 넘치서 등어서 뽑아서 지려 찍으면 그 시지 빵바다 상지가 디나로 와. 시지 빵바다 상지가 디나. 시지 빵바다 넘치 지려 찍어 디나. 시지 빵바다 그시 아이시 주고 간다 이시 쪽으로 삼아 여러 와. 혹시 공방을 제로 거래. 네. 시지 뽕마다 상지지 공부도 받으면 남치 지라 잡으면 간다. 이시 쪽으로 원이부터 더 받으면
So whenever the subtle obscurations to omniscience is abandoned, then at the same time, one achieves the state of enlightenment, one generate in one's continuum the exalted knower of all aspects, one achieve the four bodies, such as the four bodies are the wisdom truth body, nature truth body, enjoyment body, and emanation body. So I repeat, so whenever the subtle obscurations to omniscience is abandoned, at the same time, one achieves the state of enlightenment, one generates in one's continuum the exalted knower of all aspects, one achieve the four bodies, such as the wisdom truth body, nature truth body, and also emanation body and enjoyment body.
그래서 상황 림바들이야. 사 담보니바 소바 시바니야 사주바 버디안 로그로와. 림바 이리야 다 가서 빠서 잘아야 야 방신가 림바기도
림바들.
사주바. 사 담보니 주바 버디야 림바기도. 스타르레랑 가서 주바를 야 빵 로그로와. 디버스 본자리는 담아 심하고지. 그래서 시다시고로와. 어다도 림바 이리야 방신에 됐어 주바. 스타주바게 기진 타마 되긴 내가서 시리 투는 바깥에 자고 나가나 이거지. 담모들. 그래서 주바 기지 담모들 시리 처모들 바깥에자 시리 처모들 다디 뽑아다 주지바 상지지고 봐. 넘치게 돌고 와. 내가 끝부터 시에 가서 좋아. 당치 도로. 당치 도로 당한서 참아 간다. 무슨 뭐지? 당치 지라 지어요. 왜? 무슨 좀 뭐?
So we gradually go through the 10 grounds. So from the first ground, and then we progress further, then up to 10 ground. So each ground has its respective obscuration to be abandoned. So when we reach the last moment of 10 ground, then at that time we are counteracting the subtle obscurations to omniscience. So whenever these subtle obscurations to omniscience is abandoned, then at the same time we achieve the state of enlightenment. We achieve or we attain the total knower of all aspects. So all of us, we have the potential, and if we put effort in practice, then we will be able to achieve the exalted knower of all aspects eventually.
Chokyi sembaina, shangse babaina, ededa chombaina, da karina, siji gila yo maris, si kanji gila yo maris. Nanche so de, sanje, wana gila mato, she, siji gila yo maris. Gila one.
So when we say this exalted knower of all aspects, so in whose mind does it exist? In whose mind does it exist? So it only exists. It only exists in the continuum of the Buddha. So when we say this exalted knower of all aspects, in whose mind, in whose continuum does it exist? It exists only in the continuum of Buddha, meaning that those persons who are not Buddha, like for example, Arya Bodhisattva or Bodhisattva hearers. So in their, they do not possess exalted knower of all aspects in their continuums. Continua.
That's a common. For the sukkah, that's gila yo mada. Da jumba, nigga, jumba gila yo mada, jumba gila yo mada, the sandy mato, gila yo mada. Sanga gila chihuahua.
So whoever who are practicing on the first ground up to 10th ground, so any person who are still practicing, who are still practicing, including the hearers arhat, solitary realizers arhat, in their continua, they do not possess the exalted knower of all aspects. So it only exists in the continuum of Buddha.
Oh, this. I want to bet that. Tambu tigita, Josha was non-cherry. Seju to the Majeva show the Tambu should you are. That's all Dodo non-cherry is what you just was. Honey, but you just do Dodo Rematos. I get a chance to go up your children over. Let the cup Tambu things to second the non-chichat is.
So without, so I will not further elaborate on the topics that characterize the first categories. So what we should understand is the main object of indications in the first chapter is the exalted knower of all aspects.
That come never that. That can never get to the Carson at all. Yes, it did. Got on with this. Can never get to the here, yes. What did you come never what? I want to get never get into the Carson.
So the second chapter of Ornament for Clear Realization, its main object of indication or object of expression is a knower of paths.
Just the condition, what's any condition was not. Now, division, only news of the Jerusalem, was it? This shall what? I would sing the majority general for that they were. Now, division, only news of the Jerusalem city, give up another war, or the largest in East of British.
So the definitions of a knower of paths is a Mahayana Arya's clear realization, conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of the person who possesses it. And it refers to the knower of paths. So knower of paths and a Mahayana Arya's exalted knower are mutually inclusive. Yeah. So these knower of paths and Mahayana Arya's exalted knowers are mutually inclusive. So persons who possess knower of paths in their continua, then they are Aryas only. So only Aryas possess the knower of paths in their continuum. And ordinary beings do not possess the knower of paths in their continua. And so persons who possess knower of paths in their continuum is necessarily realized. Necessarily realize emptiness directly. I repeat, sorry. So knower of persons who possess knower of paths in their continuum must be a person who directly realize emptiness directly. And because the definition says that it is conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So it doesn't mean that the knower path itself must directly realize emptiness. It is not necessary. So knower of paths itself not necessarily directly realize emptiness. So, however, in a knower of paths must be conjoined with the wisdom directly realize emptiness. So the difference is knower of paths itself does not necessarily realizing emptiness directly. However, a knower of paths must be conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So knower of paths, its boundaries are that it exists from the Mahayana paths of seeing until the Buddha ground. So the Mahayana paths of seeing, which is the beginning of it is the Mahayana first ground. So from the Mahayana first ground up to 10 grounds, so it possesses the knower of paths. So it also exists on the Buddha ground as well. So it exists on the Buddha grounds means that it exists in the continuum of Arya Buddha. So knower of paths exists only in the continuum of those who are on the first ground, the beginning of the Mahayana path of seeing, then up to 10 ground and including the Buddha ground as well. So these knower of those who are on the path, those who are on the Mahayana path of accumulation and those who are on the Mahayana path of preparation, so they do not possess the knower of paths in their continuum. So similarly, hearers, they do not possess knower of paths in their mind stream as well. So when we say that knower of paths, in the definitions of knower of paths, it says that it must be conjoined with a wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So the person who, person must be a person who directly realizing emptiness, and those refers to those who are on the path, Mahayana path of seeing, on the first ground to the 10th ground, as well as on the Buddha ground. So all of them who are on the first ground and up to 10 ground, including Buddha ground, those who are on the Buddha ground, they all directly realize emptiness. So they are all Mahayana Arya beings, and they all realize emptiness directly. So as long as he or she is a person who, as long as it is a person who possesses knower of paths in his or her continuum, then person directly realize emptiness. So as long as it is a person who possesses knower of paths in his or her continuum, then that person must directly realize emptiness. And those hearers, those who are on the Mahayana path of accumulation, path of preparation, they, in their continuum, they do not possess this knower of paths. So, what it?
장주 세대. 장주 파비지 장주 생긴거와. 랑셰로와. 랑셰 돈이스 비셔지 생거와. 장세 파비지 장주 세대. 돈이스 비셔지 생거서 생거요레스. 알전에 생거서나 장세 파비지 장주 세대. 그러나 뒤에 강사 프랑게 돈이스 동거와.
뒤에 강사.
그러나 주요 그지 강사 돈이스 동거래. 돈이스 동거와서 이 장주 세대. 돈이스 비셔지 생거요레스. then to have a negare. And the ship like coffee, Sini the show, only uses to be here is simple and moody into the negare. Now, only used to be here, use a long number. Simba to put his level. The Cheva share that.
So, in the definitions of knower of paths, it says that it must be conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So, so the words here is conjoined. So some people misunderstand it and thinking that the knower of paths itself realize emptiness directly. So they think that knower of paths itself does necessarily realize emptiness directly. However, it is not necessary. The reason is because the bodhicitta, the compassion, and the loving kindness in the continuer of higher bodhisattvas, all those bodhicitta or compassions or loving kindness, they are knower paths. But those bodhicitta and those loving kindness, they are not wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So I would, they are not wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So it must be conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So and those bodhicitta, loving kindness, and compassions in the continuer of higher bodhisattvas thus is conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness, because though the person in whose mind who possesses the knower of paths does realize emptiness directly. So this is the difference that we need to understand. Some people think that the definitions of knower of paths is conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So some people think that conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness means that the knower of paths itself does necessarily realize emptiness directly. However, it is not so, because the bodhicitta, the loving kindness and compassions in the continuer of higher bodhisattvas are knower of paths, but they are not wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So the bodhicitta, loving kindness and compassions in the higher bodhisattvas continuum is conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness, because the person in whose mind this loving kindness and etc. Because the person who possesses this loving kindness, bodhicitta and compassions in their continuum, the person itself does realize emptiness directly. Yeah, so to put it in a simple way, to put it in a simple word is, so the bodhicitta in the continuum of the bodhicitta in the continuum of those who are on the in the continuums of a bodhisattva who are on the path of seeing. The bodhicitta in the continuum of a bodhisattva who are on the path of seeing is a knower of path. So why? because it is Mahayana Arya's exalted knowers. Because it is Mahayana Arya's exalted knower. So anything is a Mahayana Arya's exalted knower must be a knower of paths. So you can say that the bodhicitta in the continuum of a bodhisattva who are on the first ground, on the second ground, or on the third ground. So all of their bodhicittas are knower of paths. Because they are all Mahayana Arya's exalted knowers.
我的朗西读记录啊，这个朗西应该就是下所说记下去了呢，详细发比起长久的些，详细发比起多年多比一些是搞得下来比我的，是吧？详细发比起多年多比一些是下家呢，这个朗西下什么？详细发比起长久的些下呢，这个的，说搞得下来比我的话，那朗西是说没是在说的，朗西感觉记下来，搞的记下去了，就是说了完了，长久是不是多年多比一些？ 详细发比多年多一些，详细发比绿色，那就说可以，那详细发比大把多一些，我得看了那个的，是吧？详细发比了那个，详细发比了那个的，是吧？我的那些因为孙就是那等你下来那个，他看的。
So if someone asks you, please identify knower of paths. So what is knower of paths? So if they ask you for example or illustrations, then then you must be able to answer the questions. So for example, illustrations such as the exalted wisdom realizing emptiness in the continuum of Arya Bodhisattvas, or the bodhicitta, or the loving kindness, or the exalted wisdom realizing impermanence in the continuum of an Arya Bodhisattvas or Arya Buddha. So those are the illustrations of a knower of paths. Instances of knower of paths. So if someone were to ask you for the illustrations of sort of knower of all aspects, then you can also give the illustrations such as the exalted wisdom realizing all phenomena in the continuum of Arya Buddha, or in the continuum of Buddha Shakyamuni, or in the continuum of protector Maitreya. So I repeat, if someone were to ask you for the illustrations for the exalted knower of all aspects, then you can give illustrations such as the exalted wisdom realizing all phenomena in the continuum of an Arya Buddha, in the continuum of Buddha Shakyamuni, or in the continuum of protector Maitreya. So the boundaries for the knower of paths are that it exists from the Mahayana paths of seeing until the Buddha ground. Yeah, so I will not go through the divisions of the knower of paths. So if not, we have to go through all of the whole second chapter. So if you were to go through the divisions of knower of paths, then we have to go through the whole second chapter. So we will not elaborate, or we will not go through the divisions of knower of paths. So the second chapter, knower of paths, its main objects of indications or objects of expressions is knower of paths.
아까 소바되게 등자做的 가르치는 시시에서 될 시시 나 첨바스는 시시 나 첨바스는 넘치다 라 힘이 도사로와 아까 소바되게 등자 做的 나 시시에서 될스.
So we have already gone through the first two of the exalted knowers, the exalted knower of all aspects and the knower of paths. So now we come to the third one, which is called knower of bases.
아까 소바되게 등자 做的 시시 나 시시되게 재미 가능성 당스나 랑 디디지 가자기 다음에 무슨 또 시레시 생기 시 관계 이미지 또리스네 바데 시 생기스라고 그래. 와. 랑 디디지 가자기 다음에 무슨 또 시레시 생기 시 관계 이미지 또리스네 바데 시 생기스 뭐 재미있게 마시나. 근데 어떻게 하는지.
So the definitions of a knower of bases is an exalted wisdom conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of the person who possesses it in his continuum that abides in a class of Hinayana realizations. So this is the definition of a knower of bases.
다 근데 시시되다 던지려서 맞죠. 상사로 이와츠 마샤그미로 이와츠 마샤그미 다 간다 상사로 돼 예샤오네 상사 파바 타닥지라 파바 강가지라 요리에서 다시 시에서 파바 타닥지라 요리에서 상사들와.
And its boundaries are that it exists in the continua of all ayas. So this knower of bases exists in the continua of all ayas.
어때 던지 너무도 이시 대다 대매지 또르진네비 바지치 첨바들 이세는 와 이시 대다 대매지 또르진네비 바지치 첨바들 이세는
So it referred to knower of bases. So knower of bases and an exalted wisdom within an Arya's continuum, abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations, are mutually inclusive. So knower of bases and an exalted wisdom within an Arya's continuum, abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations, are mutually inclusive.
나들와 다 간다 이시 대대에 다 간다 런지지 간다지 다음에 요즘도 비시르지 시가 재미 도스네 바티 다 이시 대라 간다 다음에 또 빌로지 내가 좀 뭐래 이시 세워들 와 준세 가르스나 재미 도르스네 바스라 거 재미 도르스네 바다 되게 된다 시고 재미 도르스네 바 맞아 재미 도르스네 바세 로게 준세 가르스나 맞아 다음에 요즘도 또 비시 다음에 요즘도 비지 로지로 와 내게 돈아 받으라 되게 다음에 무슨 또 내게 돈아 비지지 너데 와 다음에 무슨 또 내게 돈아 비지지 너데
년퇴 텔람바
내게 돈아 봐
년퇴 텔람바
다음에 무슨 또 내게 돈아 비지 너데 내게 돈아 비지 다음에 무슨 또 너데 다 이게 뭐였어 뭔가 빼셔야 와 내게 돈아 비지지 다음에 무슨 또 너데 이게 뭐였어 뭐
So knower of bases must be a thought realizing selflessness. So knower of bases must be a thought realizing selflessness, because it says that it abides in a class of Hinayana realizations. So knower of bases must be a thought realizing selflessness, because it says in the definitions that abides in a class of Hinayana realizations. So to give an illustration for a knower of bases is the thought in the continuum in the continuum of hearers who are on the path of seeing that directly realizing selflessness.
내게 통합이지라 내게 통합지 다음에 무슨 또 되라 그러와
다음에
내게 통합이 주지 다음에 무슨 또 넣어대 내게 통합지로
다다 다음에 통람바
내게 통합
년대 통람바 규기
내게 통합지 다음에 무슨 또 넣어대
다음에 무슨 또 별로
어떻게 이시리 was
맞아 so yeah, so to give an illustration for the knower of bases, then it can be the thought directly realizing selflessness in the continuum of Aryas who are on the path of seeing. I repeat, the thought directly realizing selflessness in the continuum of hearers, hearer who are on the path of seeing. So that is a knower of basis.
Ate temesh toris nebari yesa ngaso shishidla temesh toris nebari sini doa sini doa temesh toris nebari yesa shishidla neba temesh toris nebari buri yesa bo ade karsna danda neke tonabji gamen sto lo jiwa lo degi miba namba chano karsna kaske dame chanish minade lo degi danda ndo usna mina neha is dame
미바 대로 가사이다.
미바 미바 미바다 넘바 찬다 와서 먹으라
미바다.
미나 가서 담이 차리시
미
넘바
넘바 미 넘바.
미바 저거는 누에
그래서
미바 저거 가르스나 간사게 담이 들어와 나 간사게 담이 소자 대비 담이 내디 통합이 담이도 미시 되게 미바 이 간사게 담이 소자 이 미바데 내디 로바 나지 무슨 저거 가르스나 간사게 담이 내디 로바 나지 내디 로바 나지 고샤 저거 간사게 담이 좋아 내디 로바 나지
이제 저
니들 로반지 고자 중국의 가사리 다음에 좋아 다 거기 지내지 도르니에서 와대 근데 다음에 거기 니들 통합이 지지 다음에 또 너 되기 미바 차다와도 미나데 미바데 니들 로반지 고자 중국 제일 때문에 도스네 말이 예서 다 이미 도르스 니에 된다 될다 가사 니들 통합이 가사가 다음에 무슨 또 너와 너 되기 또 때문에 도르스네 말이 예스 이비 존재가서 너되기 미나 조데 내대 로바나지 고샤 중무 지금이 예서
노테 미바데
오너티 미바데 그래서 가서 담이
가사이다.
담이 와 가서 담이 이게 로바나지 고샤 중무 지금이 예서 그때 고샤 중무 제와선다 김이 도스네 말이에서
And the illustration that I mentioned just now for the illustration for the knower of basis is in the thought that directly realizes emptiness in the continuum of Aryas who are on the path of seeing is abiding in a class of Hinayana realization. So I repeat. So the thought that directly realizes selflessness in the continuum of a hearer who are on the path of seeing is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations because that thought, the thought that directly realizes selflessness, its main objects of observations or its aspects of observation is the selflessness of person. And this selflessness of person is the main object of meditation for the hearers trainees or hearers trainee. So because of this reason, the thought that directly realizes emptiness in the continuum of hearers who is on the path of seeing is abiding in a class of Hinayana realization. So I will repeat.
Sorry, Ken. You keep saying selflessness and emptiness. Are they interchangeable, or is it only selflessness in this case?
Yeah. because 단단히 담배 당 똥이 나데 베키바 요마 베카가라와.
가자 신신의 가사를 담으자
가사를 담으러.
가사를 담으면 밤새 뭐 대시 시작 그래 말어 우리도 이거 샤야
또 yeah, the si상이 담에라 하노. So if I say saying emptiness is wrong. So if I say using the word emptiness is wrong, so it should be selflessness. Sorry for my apologize for my mistake. Yeah. So I repeat, the thought that directly realizes selflessness in the continuum of hearers who is on the path of seeing is abiding in a class of Hinayana realization, so which is the second part of the definitions of knower of basis. So it is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations because the main objects of observations of that thought is a selflessness of person. Because of because it is a selflessness of person, it is the main object of meditation for the hearers, trainees. So because of this reason, because of being the main object of observation for hearers, trainee, therefore, it is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations. So to understand the knower of bases, then we can understand the knower of bases through its definitions, and its definitions consists of two parts. The first part is an exalted wisdom conjoined with the wisdom directly realizing selflessness in the continuum of the person who possesses it in his continuum. So this is the first part. And the second part is that abides in a class of Hinayana realization. So then the illustrations that I meant, the illustrations that I mentioned just now, because the thought directly realizing selflessness in the continuum of hearers who is on the path of seeing, or it can be on the path of meditation, or it can be a hearer's arhat. So the thought is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations because its main objects of observations of that thought is the selflessness of person. And it is a selflessness, and this selflessness of person is the main objects of meditation for the hearer's trainee. So because of this, therefore, that thought that directly realizes selflessness in the continuum of a hearer who is on the path of seeing or on the path of meditation, or who is a hearer's arhat, is a knower of bases. It is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations.
So nete loba na je gonja zo kansa ke damere gonja zo da kansa ke damere gonja zo da 잡아래 와 gonja zo da kansa ke dame ne loba so nete loba sna 아니 손아봐 kansa nete loba 와 오 nete 손아봐 sama nete loba 와 나 거기 참아래 gonja zo da kansa ke damere gonja zo da kansa 오바래. 혼자做的가지나 사람 무슨들이 하고서 가서 가지. 어디래? 다들 손자 이 간다 드시고래. 아, 뒤로와. 다니테 너무 맛있어게. 다 혼자 做的 가서 그다음에 손자 단다 이시세 왔되게 이나 무슨 가지나 이나 做的 가서 가서 주무시고. 와. 이게들 데미지 도스님한테 구글에서 오러 와.
다 미남 做的.
미남 做的 가서 가면 와. 이렇게 가서 가면 대송자 아마 이게 너무 속에 이게 데미지 도리스니 비시 된다 줄세 가르에서 데미지 도리스니 바래 거기 미나 또 찾아와대 아니 이게 너무 나지 공사 좀 오시더니 예스 예 제가 손자 또 데미지 도리스니 바래 해서 나 대표야 뭐다 다시 공도 라시데 이시니는 제가 중요하다 내가 라시데 파파 기지 파비 기지 전부 강가 라시니 봐 나는 이시데 파파 타다가 뒤라 이거래 세고만 저거 타다가 지진 제바에서 이 작업마다 이 작업을 이 제바 열다
So we have to understand the difference between the knower of paths and the knower of bases, because knower of paths exists from the Mahayana path of it exists in the all Mahayana Aryas exalted knowers are a knower of paths. So however, when we talk about knower of bases, it exists in the continuer of all Aryas. So the example that I mentioned just now. So the main object of meditation for hearers trainee, so whether it is a hearer who is on the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditations, they are all hearers trainee. So the main objects of meditation for all of them are selflessness of person, and their main object of achievement or attainment is liberation. And their main object of abandonment is the self-grasping of person. So we say that the thought directly realizing selflessness in the continuum of hearers who is on the path of seeing, for example, is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations, because its main objects of meditation is the selflessness of person. So it is it's a selflessness of person, and this selflessness of person is the main object of meditation for the hearer's trainee, including the hearer's arhat as well. So because of this reason, we say that that thought is abiding in a class of Hinayana realizations. So being a knower of bases must abide in a class of Hinayana realization. Yeah, so if I ask you the thought that directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of hearers arhat, is it a knower of bases or not? So I repeat the question. The thought that directly realizes emptiness in the continuum of hearers arhat, is it a knower of bases or not? The answer is no. The thought that directly realizes emptiness in the continuum of hearers arhat is not the knower of bases, because it is not the main objects of observations for the hearer's trainee. So if I ask you another question, so the thought that directly realizes selflessness of person in the continuum of hearers arhat, is it a knower of bases? The answer is yes, because it is the main object of meditation for the hearer's training.
你给老板就国家做些个嘛的事，老哇，你们东西你把大家去在吧，那这个没那做的，你给老板就公司做些个的是来吧，我就嘛的是的，你看到这个东西是那这个，我这些嘛的，些嘛就是个。They
mai bị kiểm dân thế, cái này thì mi bắt cho cái nhiều lô về mi bắt cho thì mà đấy.
cái lúc đó thì mi bắt cho thì quốc gia cho thì
cũng bắt cho thì cái chế thì mà đó. That's all. Yeah, so the thought that directly realizes emptiness in the continuum of a hearer's arhat is not a knower of basis because it doesn't abide in a class of Hinayana realization. And the reason it doesn't abide in a class of Hinayana realization is because it is not to be taken as the main objects of observations for the hearer's training. So its boundaries are that it exists in the continuum of all ayas, right? So this knower of basis exists in the continuum of ayas, in the continuums of hearer arhats. It exists in the continuum of Arya Bodhisattva who is on the path of seeing, and it also exists in the continuum of Arya Buddhas. So why? Because they possess the thought that directly realizes selflessness of person in their continuum.
Oh, this. So Julia, step of Kalian, she told me, we got some bug things at all the she that the Rasha. That she's going to she to Shawa. I also got she body. I got she body. Things at all the number of your was it. She had someone of the she body. She got she body. Got she body. She got the thing at all the number of your was stepping.
So so if you have time, then we will revisit a knower of basis. So the next chapter is application in complete aspects. So the main objects of expressions or indications in the fourth chapter is the application in complete aspects, and this is the focus of this program. So when we study the ornament for clear realizations, we are going to mainly focus on this chapter, which is called application in complete aspects.
Oh, that kind of knowledge. I got you back things at all, you know, you dig it, any careers, and what? So neither on a chance you know what thing about it. You know, see, none you do. What would you think? Chance you know what dinner will be here to sing it. Simply not your head, not to be seen.
Yeah. So the definitions of application in complete aspects is a bodhisattva's yoga conjoined with the wisdom that collectively cultivates the aspects of the three exalted knowers. I repeat, the definitions of application in complete aspects is a bodhisattva's yoga conjoined with the wisdom that collectively cultivates the aspects of the three exalted knowers.
The chosen chamber, the juice, the not the job, the chosen chamber. The juice in the chamber, not the job challenge.
And application in complete aspects and a bodhisattva's exalted knower are mutually inclusive. So the application in complete aspects and a bodhisattva's exalted knower are mutually inclusive.
Not the job, the sons of the Kawa music. It's only due about your reason. That's only Gita about the mother. That's only Salamadua. Native is a Mamadua. Will a Mamadua. Not the Joade. It's only Gita, Sanji Salayom. Sanji Babi is a hello. Melo got the coach and city chamber. Not the Joseph.
and its boundaries are that it exists from the Mahayana path of accumulation until the end of the continuum. So its boundaries are ranging from the Mahayana path of accumulation until the end of the continuum. So this application in complete aspects doesn't exist on the Buddha ground. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in hearers and those Hinayanis as well. Why? Because it must be a bodhisattva's exalted knower.
当我这个皮包给定下做是哪做学的，哪做学的，但他其他学嘛给吧去了吧？接了啊，说但哪做学是接了多多学了吧？接了学学吧去了吧？但哪做学，但那我做嘛是个接个嘛定下做我他妈继续了吧？为什么我都接过了吧？那我这接哪做学钱他接哪做学的，然后他定起过的哪做学，然后那做他做我小学时候的他妈写是吧？
So the main object of indications or expressions in the fourth chapter, or for the fourth chapter, is the application in complete aspects. So so for now we need to understand this. So since it is the main chapter that we are going to focus on, so we will come back to this application in complete aspects. So we are going to explain the application in complete aspects. So in this chapter itself, then we will again mainly focus on the 37 harmonies with enlightenment.
他是那么多说的，个习惯给定价做是吧？他个习惯第一就是他刚刚把的嘛，他刚刚把这个定价做的嘛，是追求什么的巧，追求。他那当不学，那当不当做说的写不的话，那就是追求是写，追求的刚刚把个写，刚刚定价做时候是追求是的强。
Yeah, so as mentioned just now, the 8 categories can be summarized into 4 applications also, the 3 exalted knowers, and the second group is 4 applications. So we have already gone through the first one, application in complete aspects. Now we come to the second application, which is called peak application. Peak application is the main object of indication in the 5th chapter.
那追求的话。 追求个是成立的，其实这个提前从哪来，然后就被讲的是什么那个追求成立噻。其实这个提前从哪来，我就被讲的就是生命当中的追求成立噻，是吧？
这是你刚刚有读过吗？
我其实这个提前从哪来，就被讲的是生命当中的追求成立。
So the definitions of peak application is a bodhisattva's yoga conjoined with the wisdom highly transformed from the Mahayana path of accumulation that collectively cultivates the aspects of the 3 exalted knowers. So highly transformed from, another translation for this is that surpasses. Highly transformed from also means surpasses. So the definitions of peak application is a bodhisattva's yoga conjoined with the wisdom highly transformed from, or that surpasses the Mahayana path of accumulation that collectively cultivates the aspects of the 3 exalted knowers.
哦对，他俺都刚才追求说的，我其实这个提前从哪来说就话噻，他俺说哪子觉得追求你的，可能你蛮另外一恰当的。
好的，也对。
哪子觉得追求你，我这就心了，当不哪子觉得是，也就是追求写的哇，也就是嘛追求写的，那追求的就哪子觉得对呢，那追求的。 结果也是个追求是吧？追求的就当做学了，对呢？追求的结果也是个，可能你讲就学的，不当做学学啊，那当做学搞习惯个，有些做当做学的，当做学对了对呢？你这不追求的，也是这不追求的，都有也是是吧？他追求的刚刚好，你就嘛学的吧？
So the 4 applications are presented in these sequences. First is application in complete aspect, and the second one is peak application. So application in complete aspect is the main object of indications in the 4th chapter. In dependence on the application in complete aspects, the peak application is generated. So in dependence on the application in complete aspects, peak application is generated. So you can also say that in dependence on the application in complete aspect, one achieves the result, which is peak application.
他等待的学会呢，一定要什么？一种那么学会的，刚做就话的刚做，那做就话告诉他前手就弄罢了，看到的话，往后的切到，那做就话的自我调整，其实往头的，往头的那做就话哦，他这就头的前手就弄罢了，往头弄的，这就告诉前手就弄罢了，往头弄的哇，前手就弄罢了，往头也是个，而这就的。看到，刚做就话对了对的，这不这就拖把的也是那个是吧？拖把的，你那个就是个是，那做就告诉就，前头就那做就话，哦，那做就话告诉，其实那个往多点多，那做就话，为了对呢，这个这就，做的其实那个往拖了个也是吧？往告诉这不这就拖了个也是个，这往拖是怎么去的啊？
Yeah. So So in the applications of application in complete aspects, which is the cause, then at that time, so one cultivates in order to achieve the power. So achieve the one. So application in complete aspects is cultivated for the sake of achieving or attaining power in the aspects of three exalted knowers. So in dependence on the application in complete aspects, one achieved the result, which is the peak applications. And at the time of peak applications, one has achieved the power over the aspects of three exalted knowers, or one has achieved or attained the power in aspects of three exalted knowers. So one is the application in aspects, in complete aspects is the cause, and peak application is the result. In dependence on the cause, which is the application in complete aspects, one achieves the result, which is the peak application. So application in complete aspects at that time is so it is cultivated for the sake of achieving power in the aspects of three exalted knowers. So when one has attained the power in the aspects of three exalted knowers, then one attained the peak application, which is the result.
我这些，但你不追求的话，追求的可能，其实往拖把也是，拖上的肯定是呢，往拖是看到比较看到的，多年来没变，我就老拖把，多年来没变，长拖把，多年来没变，希腊顺的拖把还是，我就是多年来没变，长拖的希腊顺的拖把呢，就是弄的往拖我是，就是的。
maybe拖
把哦，我那个我就不老拖把是那边的，我那边很多拖把是那边，我这边拖了多那边很多拖的，没看到，那个接受拖的，也是那个接受。
So how does one attain the power in the aspects of three exalted knowers? So the way to achieve the power in the aspect of three exalted knowers is by achieving the thought reason from meditations by that observe that emptiness. So the way to achieve or attain powers in the aspects of three exalted knowers is by achieving the thought reason from meditation that observe the emptiness, and by achieving the special insight that focus on the emptiness, and by achieving the union of time abiding and special insight that focus or that observe on the emptiness. So whenever these are attained, then one will attain the result of peak application. So I repeat. So how does one attain power in the aspects of three exalted knowers? It is by attaining the thought reason from meditation that observe emptiness. or by attaining special insight that observes emptiness, or by attaining the union of calm abiding and special insight that observe emptiness. So whenever these are attained, then one attain the result of peak application.
我的是吧？他刚才俺说，这就给上册的这个集中了这里经济法的有什么吧？集中了这里经济法的，我的了，是吧？集中了这里经济法的有也是，他从来没有嘛，这就是，没有军事干的是呢，那就是是吧？
So its boundaries are that it exists from the heat level of the Mahayana path of preparation until the end of the continuum. So this is the boundaries of peak application. So they exist from the heat level of the Mahayana path of preparation until the end of continuum. So it doesn't exist in the path lower than the path of preparation.
我的是吧？他这就是讲的。 毕竟是用了这的嘛多，从来没有嘛的，用了这的云他把他们上去下来也有嘛，这就是，是吧？
从来有嘛？
哦，从来有嘛的，那从来没这个，这就是话的，我们那边很多透过啊，我们那边很多，我们那边很多的俺就用了这的，用了这头把它，我们那边很多现在多着，我那边很多头发一样的，
用了
这头发，用了的俺就修了。 这么是把群众是需要的，用了这个需要的话，把是用了担保特别高了，那我们那边我就不知道现在不会。
这
担保的话，
你把的，
这个节目，这个是吧？是吧？是吧？群众的话，用了这些西的话，我你他用了这担保投的东西呢，我就不知道投的个的，东西那边我就不知道投把单，他这就投的，这就。
공중 일로에는 하동 대토기로. 대토와이나 대조람 그 대토기로 주ям도.
오늘 한도도.
So this peak application doesn't exist in the path of accumulation because because attaining the heat level of path of preparations and attaining the special insight that observe emptiness, or attaining the thought arisen from meditation that observe on emptiness, are simultaneous. So when we talk about levels of path of preparation, there are 4 levels. So the first level is called heat. The second one is called peak, P-E-A-K, and the third one is forbearance, and the fourth one is supreme qualities. So the attainment of the heat level of path of preparation and the attainment of the thought arisen from meditation that observe emptiness, or the attainment of special insight that observe emptiness, are simultaneous. So because of this reason, it doesn't exist in the path of accumulation.
我对，当俺做这些个男主角呢，你切吧的，男主角的俺说。 俺是怎么从哪里看的？你看把这个多啊，城市从哪里有的啊？俺这说的城市从哪里是呢？经常发生的，这就是说的从哪里买有嘛？就那这里去的，给你7万多啊，给你7万多啊。那俺说男主角的，俺这就钱就这个成本的话，你这不这就投那个就这样，男主角我把他点点，他看他你这不这些投啊，你这不这些的，男主角我把别人投去。
So the difference between the application in complete aspects and peak applications is boundaries. In terms of boundaries, is different. So the boundaries for application in complete aspects is that exists from the Mahayana path of accumulation until the end of the continuum. And the boundaries for peak application is that exist from the heat level of the path of the Mahayana path of preparation until the end of the continuum. So it doesn't exist on the path of accumulation. So application in complete aspects is the cause. So in dependence on the force of cultivating the application in complete aspects, one achieves the result, which is the big application.
那这就经常是曾经的经验是地下去呢，那像是中了几多年没的，写了相当这个多年没的。哦，那这追求是话是经过去中学生的话，反正学习或者是像是中了把它中了把它理解呢，像是中了被拒绝，不理解没的，我就老提前了的这个人，我就老提，我就也是，是吧？
我用一波，
我过去老提。 那曾经我是经验是学生，真的是这个的。
Yeah. And so if you as if someone asks you to identify the illustrations of big application, then you can give the answer. The illustrations such as the thought arisen from meditation that observe emptiness in the continuum of bodhisattvas who is on the path of preparation or who is on the path of seeing. So I repeat. So if someone were to ask you please give an illustrations for the big applications, then the illustrations can be a thought arisen from meditation that observe emptiness in the continuum of a bodhisattva who is on the path of seeing or who is on the path of preparation.
这刚才都是第是全的沙发那里来的，草嘛的，让这第是。 包括在下回的，接了人家我自己写的，差不多给我嘛是吧？但那个你沙发到全的沙发到这里，其实跑马有的，哇，就是差不多，在各类考位上的，真的是还没习惯嘛，真的是，而且有习惯的是吧？
Yeah, most probably all of us are thinking that it is so difficult. So because there are so many new terminologies, new names, and etc. So when we first encounter it, then most probably that we will think that it is very difficult. However, it will become easier when we talk about it again and again.
我的，那我做的等到搞习惯的，主要做的我做小学时候的这点的，比较我习惯的长毛的习惯的，就给了。哎，小学时候的自己的，大部分小学时候的，好吧，那学好一点。 常常的话，2多点学的。
我那个学的，
我搞习惯的。
他们。
那习惯的我就做小学时候的嘛，学的，有些做的。有些做的，那小学时候的我就学干，那把那个长毛的另外一点，你们学的多的，我可能另外打给我同学的，你给就不学的长毛的，我这不习惯的，我们是学技能没呢，也就没得这个，那这个长毛的就是学学是吧？我说的，不行也不行。
Yeah, so out of these 8 chapters, we are going to focus on the 4th chapter, and in the 4th chapter, we are going to focus on the 37 harmonies with enlightenment. So these 37 harmonies with enlightenment is very important and is very useful in the sense that whichever text you are reading, that they are all related. So these 37 harmonies of enlightenment is that useful, that it is related with whichever text you are reading. So I'll say some of us that we have not studied the 4th chapter before. So I encourage all of you to continue to put in a great effort in studying it.
主播的话，主播的你把结巴是的嘛，接了需要意思吧？接了我做，反正是我做把顶巴的或者顶巴的地方的话是不是差不多？不然呢，等到当初就话是追求的话，差不多那些样，不然呢，就是的话就的，那这样啊你嘛，无论今天谈的说话以后，别人觉得我就需要意思，这需要情况。
Yeah, so in next class, I'm going to talk about the main object of indications in the 6th chapter, 7th chapter, and 8th chapter. So the 6th chapter and 7th chapter are very much related, as just like the 4th chapter and 5th chapter.
我跟你说的，那就接了嘛，通常的都是那个做，当初说生意去是有的，的嘛就那，我说我嘛罗西，这些的，有的我罗你的就要去的。 这些做的当然是小学做的嘛，多过的哇。我第一是，第二嘛， 루시 딱한다 사막이 세슈 마셔가 너무 싸발로서 이제 뭐만요리 간이나사들이 디시오레서 와.
Yeah, so we are going to focus on the fourth chapter, the application in complete aspects. In this chapter, there are 11 topics. So I will go through the 11 topics in brief manner. I will briefly talk about the 11 topics, and we are going to and among these 11 topics, we are going to focus on the 77 harmonies with enlightenment. So again, it is normal that you feel, feel a bit difficult with all these new terms and etc. However, when we talk about it again and again, then it will become easier. Yeah. So you have any questions? If you have any questions, then you can ask now. Yeah. So there is a Eddie is going to ask the questions.
Can I ask a question?
Eddie is asking. Yeah. So the next question will be you.
Oh, just referring to that quotation, the verse that are quoted in your on the screen. We and all that. What does that refer to?
Sorry, could you please repeat your question?
In parentheses, there are quotations like gone to the peak and verse and V 0.5V.
0.5.
Like in peak application, under peak application.
Peak application. Oh, 0.5B.
What does that refer to?
Do you know the V? Verse. I think verse 0.5B. Verse. Yeah. I'm not so sure what does this the parenthesis V.0.5B refers to. So I will check and also confirm with Geshe-la. So there is a like code V.05B on the screen I shared. So there is a oh, you're not looking at it. Yeah. So I will check and then I will get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And the exalted lower, the first one, which is only on the Buddha ground. Just want to know from time booming to Buddha ground, what is the difference? Is it the exalted lower is only on Buddha ground, and booming is not exalted lower on the first? Or I can't remember the definition, the complete aspect, total knowing of all phenomena.
Yeah, the culminated exalted wisdom, directly realizing the 10 topics, the generated mind, and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's only Buddha ground, 10 booming, not.
You mean the exalted knower on the 10 grounds? Are they exalted knower of all aspects or not, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So ini di tambo ini di nang thiên rồi. Nang thiên sẽ đi nang thiên sẽ đi ini di sát tambo sát juba phá tu sát juba phá gì thiên bát đi nang thiên in us.
난치데 선지 마도 사 주보 메제 senje를 봐. 사 주보 메제 그거 senje를 senje기 되어요 말했어. 난치서도 가서 사지 창게 가서 지라 마도 사마지게 수비라요. 사 주보데 나도 전주서 봐. 전주서 senje를 봐. senje. 마사 주보니 마요. 선지네 야 뭐대요 말했어.
Yeah. So the exalted knower in the continuums of those who are on the first ground up to 10th grounds, the exalted knowers are not exalted knower of all aspects. No exalted knower of all aspects, because exalted knower of all aspects only exists on the Buddha ground. So it only exists in the continuum of enlightened beings. So those who are on the 10th ground and lower, they are bodhisattvas and they are sentient beings. So they are not they are not Buddha or enlightened beings. So exalted knower of all aspects does not exist in their continuum.
Although the 10 Bhumi and Buddha ground is very close, there is still a difference.
嗱，你哋沙珠巴人啊，啲啊，生意沙人，你哋攤嘢波要你哋，你哋要你千萬啲，啲南天馬嚟。Yeah, so
사 주보가 참아 줘라. 참아디 나가서 상디 사람들은 좀 진짜 기본 담아내. 설계만 담아 뭐 시밀러스 되게 시디 탐으로들가 같이 잡으래. 시디 참고
사주바기 타마디.
그러면 시디라고 장사 보고 살아. 설계만 담아디 시디 참고지만 그냥 충분히 봐야만. 그까지 보나 다 상지 돈 많이 돈.
Yeah. So yeah, even though it is very, even though the 10th ground is very close to the Buddha ground, however, the exalted knower in their continuer is not an exalted knower of all aspects. So at the last moment of the 10th ground, so which is the closest to the Buddha ground. So at that point of time, then those bodhisattvas, they need to abandon the subtle obscurations to omniscience. So whenever these obscurations to omniscience is abandoned, they achieve the Buddha ground. So before that, it is not an exalted knower of all aspects.
One more.
Oh.
The knower of all bases, if having developed bodhicitta, what can it go to the knower of the second knower? What
Knower of paths.
knower?
Can you please repeat your question?
The knower of bases,
Wait,
if developed bodhicitta, generate bodhicitta, can it move to the knower of knower of paths?
knower of paths, yeah. Okay. Yeah, the question is, the knower of bases, if developed bodhicitta, can it move to the normal knower of paths? Paths. So, kasa ini di sisi dia roh aja lah. Sisi dia na pun jauh ini di tu di kena dah ada. Sisi na ini di jangan sembah dia wai na. Sorry, jangan sembah dia wai na. Di lamsi cakap rilis.
体系的，
其實啲空氣條啊啲卡都啲叫啦，啲是石地，長出一線的機會啦，臨時的差嘅嘢，其實呢啲之前呢，啲長出線把語氣，
是吧？我们新把进来有，也是，我们新把数据来也是，上次爸爸嘛的，上次从那把用那把数据来有，
對，
以前，
但是爸爸嘛，
上次爸爸，以前的你的爸爸。 我就是把爸爸妈的形式从那地方做起来的，也这当我作为学习的老师健康嘛的，上次跑起来到学习有的是，这有的是，是吧？那个是几个嘛？完这个现代摄影界的理解嘛？
人家送入能，
上次跑起来一些有的是，
你假設跑去九幾，
一些有的是，
假設跑去
起来一些有的是，
有啦，
上次跑去咱们公司的落地，
是有啦，
就咱们公司落地些的是。
但是跑去九幾，
咱们公司的落地些的是。
上面公司唔多嘅咯，
落地些的，
都係多嘅事情。
些的是。
其實呢啲就係呢啲事實嘅。 冷血的差嘛，哇！
有冷血的，我上次我血的冷血的是。
但是跑去就以是血的冷血的。Yeah. So, if you say, if the question is, if developed bodhicitta can it move it to the knower of paths, right? So then we have to understand the knower of bases, the boundaries for knower of bases. So the boundaries for knower of bases is that it exists in the continuer of all ayas. So it exists in the continuer of all ayas. And it is jansen paba ina tiang shishi diorwa. Paba kanga igi dula yorwa. Nintu paba tentu sama di yorwa. When they just papa gi shishi de any de shishi yang he lamshi yang he wa. Kisani de lamshi cha yi res de bangna de kichatina kichatigido.
差不多是。
哦，shishi。
你对跑步咱们刚才咱们多久了啊？shishi也是多，shishi我以前都shishi差才了。
Yeah. So so it exists in the knower of all ayas. So, for example, the knower of bases in the continuum of in the continuum of Arya Bodhisattvas. So it is a knower of bases and it is knower of paths as well. So for example, the thought that directly realizes the selflessness of person in the continuum of an Arya Bodhisattvas is a knower of bases and it is a knower of paths as well. 대니가로와 대장생 파베 교기 강사 파베 교기 강사 다음에 또베 노디 양 시시지 양 남시로와
나지 교재 가서 어떻게 보면 쳔바로와 시법이 쳔바로와 so
yeah is the kaza the lamshi is kaisna teaching public camera yeah
쳔바서 나게 되기로와
yeah, so this thought that directly realizes selflessness of person in the continuum of Arya Bodhisattvas is a knower of paths because it is a Mahayana Arya's exalted knower.
So the moment there's generation of Bodhisattva move Mahayana, then immediately you will be a knower of path. From selflessness, then goes to generate bodhicitta, and then must have wisdom happiness and can become knower of path. If only selflessness, no bodhicitta, just self-liberation is only knower of basis. But there is a loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, together with the knowledge of selflessness and emptiness, then is the knower of path. Is the bodhisattva. Is that right?
근데 그 다음에 지보이나 그렇게 다음에 인원수도 또 배도 지보이나 근데 시시제스 근데 그래서 그렇게 다음에 인원수도 또 배도 대당 장주기생 대당 지와이나 근데 시시 양차게 남시 양차게 스테리나
이 차야로 아니 세포가 이게 많이 나 그러니까 시스와도 데미지 도르스네 가지고 무슨라고 그러 단지 세계 이 자세 범지 장주 세계 이게 차야 시마도 이 차야
세주 쌤네 대시시 말이 간스나 대통령이 거의
데미지 도르스네 차야 말아
이거는 담 가사기 다음에 무슨 또 배도 당 장축이 쌤 대 냠도 요와이나 근데 지난 디 temen itori su de imba de kioro
그런데가 짜마
대주 쌤이나
단지 세세와도 지ችን 뭐야 뭐
这말이 yeah so to put it in a simple way bodhicitta itself is not knower of basis because being a knower of basis must be that abides in the class of Hinayana realizations.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That three things thank you.
Thank you. Stop you.
그래서 유의자들한테 집대받지보다 도와줘. 도서장을 좀 충분히 된지기도 뭐 서줘가지고 지금 때마다 저희 개발의 쇼핑도 집이 제바다 바람자나 거기서 저절로 서로 뭐지 무슨 뭐 요즘은 연습 좀 해도 되네. 뭐지는 시체 상무需要有其他不等等长力都给了아주 뭐지 뭐도 쓰도 파도 도야 돼. 반장이 그 시대요. 이제 되게 잡아야지. 도시 있어.
So we conclude this lesson with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue that we accumulated, especially through this Dhamma lesson. May it be the complete cause for Buddha, maybe the complete cause for Buddha Dhamma to flourish and for all sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for all upholders of Buddha's teaching, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May they live long, have good health, and may their holy wishes and enlightened activities be accomplished spontaneously and spread in all 10 directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for our beloved teacher, Gyaltsen Lama Rinpoche. May the unmistaken reincarnations of Gyaltsen Lama Rinpoche be swiftly returned and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of teachings and sentient beings, so that we will have the opportunity to receive the profound teaching from Rinpoche again. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace. May excellent happiness prevail in the world. May wars, conflicts, disaster, pandemic, natural disaster, and all unconducive conditions be pacified immediately.
어디지랑도 저지 답으로 오시. 내가 무슨 일시에 대해서 저지 답으로 오시. 근데 일시에 판 메르티니. 그것이 버주는 못하니. 때마다 로이도 그것이 주는 못이야. 정말 대시에 오해지시니스.
And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for Tabo Rinpoche. So Tabo Rinpoche fell sick, and we dedicate these roots of virtue for Tabo Rinpoche to quickly regain his health and live beyond long and spread the Buddha Dharma always.
Sabege wa de tenang wa kun la kan be nang ge wa ji zhen lo sang zha ba yi ten be ning bo ren du se ji shu jiang zhou sen zhou ren bo jie ma ge ba na ge gu ji yan ba me ba yang kon de kon du pe wa shu jiang be ba wei ji da gen ba dang kun du sang bo de yang de jin de da kun ge jie su da lo ji ge wa de da dang ji ra du ngu da wa ren bo jie ma ge ba na ge gu ji ge wa yan ba me ba yang kon de kon du pe wa shu ren ye da wa ren bo jie ma ge ba na ge gu ji yan ba me ba yang kon de kon du pe wa shu一切顺流具备让其些事实康健点对跟强那被莫等真教授拉斯瓦的所行的旅途说今天看的变天马六把看的中为上面一些喏出面点真教授拉斯瓦的所读些旅途说他们对把这些年让走路上叫我就是就把这张相信的教育嘛这边把这边给了就用书做别就这人不及西当这边顶真被瓦拉那样秘书设备过上新出面接触老马说我的变天马六中为国际国家电脑基督真帮这边木罗会希望现在一人帮会当就算给最近那当给谁能给都给老婆见路面点没样三倍准给他对这边都有些说也让为国为心当这边当的王马对中为那些人是往等真个作为下对是的把天有去